Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Today's guest is a good buddy of mine. He's also in the internet marketing world. He's one of the partners in a company called Build, Grow, Scale. They do some amazing optimization work with lots of e-com stores, some that are pretty massive. They've partnered with brands and generated hundreds of millions in revenue. We've done a little bit of work together as well. Really great guys, Matt, who I'm talking with today, Matt Stafford, and his partner Tanner Larsson. Just two really good dudes. I'll probably have Tanner on in a later show, but had a great conversation with Matt today. Really about very little business, which is a common theme on this show. If you've listened to some episodes by now, we talked a lot about emotional intelligence and vulnerability and having hard and adult conversations in life, and it was really powerful for me. I mean, this was a conversation that, as he was sharing things, I was starting to learn. Like, I was like, man, that's a really good share. I was writing down notes. I mean, these are areas that I need to improve and where I need to ask more questions. So if you're looking to have stronger relationships, personally, romantic, professionally, we dive into all of that on this episode. I really enjoyed it. I know you will enjoy it as well.
This is Openly Outspoken with Jeremy Adams, where differing opinions are not only accepted, they're encouraged.
Matt Stafford, we're live. Thanks for coming on, man.
Hey, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so we were just talking right before we went live about a bunch of work you just had done. Can you
Yeah.
talk about that? That sounded you started sharing, and I'm like, this is too fucking interesting. Like, hold on a minute until we go live.
Yeah, so I'll give a little bit of context as to how I came about knowing about it. I went to Dave Asprey's 40 Years of Zen. So like a 5-day camp in Seattle, where you basically get neurofeedback, train your brain, and some emotional intelligence work, stuff like that. And at the end of the workshop, they gave us this sheet of like different things that he's had done and things that he recommended. And he had a link in there to Docera Clinics in Park City, Utah for stem cell treatment. And I've always been super interested in that. Thought it was really cool technology that, to repair the body. And so through my research, I ended up scheduling to go do like they call it a full body stem cell treatment, and it's where they literally create this cocktail of stem cells. They take bone marrow from my hips, and then they take fat cells from my love handles. So I told them they could take all they wanted, and then also stem cells from a placenta, and they mix the three together. And through the way your body works and everything, they basically tell your old stem cells to become new. And there's like 4 different types of stem cells, and so it covers it by having the 3 different types. And then what they do is they actually use X-ray injection, and they can place the stem cells exactly where they want. And so I've had a couple of motorcycle accidents and different things growing up. I thought it'd be cool to like have them work on my shoulder and my thumb and a few other areas. And so what they did is, I'll give a little more context. The stem cells don't know to do anything unless your body says something's broken or damaged or injured, and then that signals the stem cells to come in and do their work. So what they actually do is they inflame your joint, or they inflame the area that they're going to inject the stem cells into, and then they inject the stem cells so that they don't lay dormant and your body doesn't remove them or use them somewhere else. So you get the most benefit from the injection right when they do it. So I thought, hey, I'm pretty healthy. I'm going to go do this thing. I'll bounce back way quicker, because they're like, you need 3 to 6 weeks recovery. I'm like, yeah, but I'm not really broken. It's going to be fine. I went and did it. I'm 3 weeks removed from it now. I'm super happy I did it, but the first 24 to 48 hours, I was not doing good. And so I went back in the next morning for the follow up, and I'm like, I feel like my wrist is broken. I feel like my shoulders, I like I must have broke my collarbone. I can't lift my arms. Like this is terrible. And he goes, "Oh yeah, cool. That's exactly what you should be feeling." He said, "What we did is we went in and inflamed all your joints, and so all this pain is like really good. It means that like we got the stuff where we wanted it to. Just if you're not feeling better tomorrow, give me a call and come back in." And they had said like stay in town for 2 days and just before you fly. And within 24 hours I felt 80% better, and then every day after that it got marked better. By the time I flew home I felt good. So yeah, so I'm super excited about it. And during that process it's about a 6 to 9 months where the stem cells will do their work. And I'm 49 right now, just turned 49. It should make my joints function, feel, act like they're back in their mid 20s again. And so for me, this is more of a quality of life thing. I don't care if I live to be 120, but I want to be able to like enjoy every day, that I have as I age gracefully. So
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I mean, I feel like when I get to that point, I'm definitely gonna invest in those type of things. I just
yeah,
turned 30, so I feel like my joints are
yeah,
still pretty good, but
yeah,
my you know what hurts sometimes? It's just like my back, sitting around the office and stuff, or sitting around my house, and just I need a stem cell injection right in my back.
yeah,
So how do
yeah. So
go ahead?
part of their treatment, that is what he treated. Um, so he went all the way from the base of my skull all the way down to my back, and then there was like 11 injections just in the lower back region. Um, and it is for that reason, just because there's so many repetitive use injuries that we have over time, and it just creates scar tissue and things like that. Um, and because we have jobs where we sit a lot, he basically said sitting all day is like Skittles for your teeth. It's really, really hard on your body. We're not meant to do that. So to have a standing desk, which I do, and use it more often. Um, Plus, I did concrete for 23 years before I got into the digital world. So I definitely probably had some old scar tissue and nagging, issues from that, which I feel really good, but I got 6 to 9 months, to really give a good recap of how I feel.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. Like who is an ideal candidate? Is just anybody healthy? Will this help them?
Um, yeah, technically, but what he really deals with is people that have chronic pain. So they've exhausted, all the other resources. He doesn't think like, you know, fusing discs and doing all that is really a good idea. In fact, he's got a book. It's called the Stem Cell. Oh boy, I can't remember the title of it. I have it here. The Stem Cell Solution. And so his name's Dr. Adelson. You can Google him. He's like one of the world's top guys in stem cell. He's given TED Talks, done a bunch of other stuff. He's a naturopath, so he's not into using medicines and all the other stuff. He really wants your body to heal naturally. So hence, when I was all done, like they don't give you any pain medicine. They say that the most that you should take is like a Tylenol, but they actually want your body to remain inflamed and fix itself. So it's the thing that he helps people with the most is like chronic pain, like low back pain or elbows from people's like sports injuries, things like that.
That's awesome. Was it a pretty steep investment?
Yeah, it was. So to do all your joints and that whole 9 yards was 30 grand.
Okay.
So,
It's
but
actually
I've,
less as you're explaining everything. I thought it was going to be more. So 30 was less than
yeah,
I was thinking it was about to be 100. That was the number I was
yeah,
thinking.
no, yeah, no, 30 grand. And I think it's worth it. I've spent money on nice cars and stuff like that. And I figured it's time to invest in myself rather than things.
you just got a new nice car too, right?
Yeah, yeah, I did.
No, I know a couple guys from board of advisors were talking about like testosterone and stuff like that. Is that at what age is that a thing for guys? I honestly don't know enough about it, but I know Brett was talking about it and saying how it changed his life. Do you have any experience with that
Who?
or no? Brett Lane. Brett.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
he like
yeah, yeah,
lost a lot
yeah.
of weight. He looks great. Yeah.
He's actually opening a clinic for that. So I just went on a fishing trip with him up in Alaska and spent 7 days. We did a bunch of deep sea fishing, and yeah, he's actually opened a clinic. He does. He looks really good. Yeah, I'm 49. They say in your 40s, that's when it starts to decline, and so I would be a perfect candidate for that type of thing right now too.
Okay. Well, it's good
Yeah,
to know I got 10 years left to
yeah,
hopefully.
yeah.
Hope I mean
I
hopefully.
Yeah, I will say for me personally, I was in really good shape my whole life until and didn't have to work really hard at it because I had a physical job till I was in my mid 30s. Um, Once I was in my mid 30s, where I never had to do any cardio, I started having to do cardio in order to stay lean. And I will say now at 49, what I notice is um, if I get off the wagon and don't stay good about eating and exercising, I go backwards a lot quicker than I used to. And it takes me longer to get back in shape. So, just like anyone else, I'm normal. I've had like where I get in work mode and don't make time for myself. And,
Yeah.
6 months later, I look at myself and go, oh God, why did I do this? And then it takes me 6 months to get back to where I want to be, where when I was younger, I could take a month or two off and be back in 2 weeks. So I have noticed that. So again, that's probably makes me a good candidate to do that other stuff just because um, keeping the longevity and quality of life is really important.
Yeah, Brett was saying he like wakes up at 6 a.m. and like goes to the gym every day. I'm like, holy shit, dude! Like that's intense. He went from like not working out to like every day kickboxing first thing in the morning, and I'm just like, that's a big lifestyle change in your 40s or for
Yeah,
anybody,
yeah,
let alone. Yeah, I are you a big fan of fasting? I'm a big intermittent fasting guy. Like I've actually like I don't
yes.
you can't really see my body here in our videos, but I'm like the lowest weight I've almost been right now since high school. I like dropped
Oh,
probably
nice,
like 25 pounds since you saw me last. I weighed about
nice.
200 in high school and I'm probably like 213 now. I think I can get to and I have more muscle than I did too, so I'm 205 I'll be like really pleased with for my body style.
Yep.
But yeah, I've been on that intermittent fasting and meal prepping, and I got rid of soda, which was really beneficial. It's just I never drink a whole bunch, but I would have it around the house. So just not having it in the house has been huge. And I can't remember what I was listening to, but some aging scientist was talking about the best feeling for our body to like regenerate cells is the feeling of being hungry. That feeling of being hungry is just so good for our body because that's when we're in survival mode. That's when our body's telling itself, hey, we need to hunt. We need to, when we're full all the time and we're just full of food and we go to bed full, it's the opposite. It's telling our body, like, hey, you don't really got to do anything. You're
Yeah, you can
stuffed.
store this. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So are
So
you a
yeah,
fasting guy?
yep, I definitely do. I actually just finished a 24-hour fast last night. So I typically fast Monday through Friday until about 1 or 2 in the day, and then eat until 8 or 9 at night, and then go to bed that way. So yeah,
I could never go back. It's just now, like when I eat breakfast, I just met a friend for breakfast. I was actually on a 36-hour fast because I went over to Max's on Sunday night to his new house and they made
uh,
buffalo chicken dip and pizza rolls and shit that I haven't eaten in a while. And probably all year I haven't eaten pizza rolls, you know? And
yeah,
I just felt I'm like, oh my god, my body's like fuck you pretty much. So that Sunday night, and we're recording on a Tuesday. I just ate a late breakfast a little bit ago, right before this interview. So I didn't eat So it's about a 40-hour fast, and I feel much better,
That's awesome.
like much
Yeah,
much
the
better.
nice thing, the other thing people don't realize is our bodies are always regenerating. So we have like dead cells. We have very weak cells, which are actually what cancer cells start as. And when you fast, your body draws from its quickest sources of energy. So it literally consumes um, those weakest cells and the dead cells. It's a really good replenishing system for our body. So yeah, it's actually very, very healthy. And the people who fast, um, none of the crazy stuff or whatever, but just on a regular basis, like it reduces your chance of cancer like more than 50%. And obviously that's something that probably everybody in our world now has had a family member or someone who's had to deal with that. So I definitely, think about it from that standpoint too. It's a very good cleansing tool for your body.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you got to give the food industry credit for coming up with 3 meals a day. I mean, that's ultimately just to get you to buy more food. But it's definitely hard at first, but I don't know about for you. After I made it through the first few weeks, it became pretty simple. Like, there's definitely times where it's harder than others, but 90% of the time, it's just like instead of eating at 9, eat at 1. Rather than don't eat something right before you go to bed. Maybe stop eating at 7 or 8. Like, so you have a feeling regularly of being kind of hungry, and it's also, I feel like it's been great for my mental discipline. I'm like on nearly a 40-hour fast, which is what I just did. I feel if I can get myself through that mentally, I can push myself through a lot of shit, because
Yeah.
especially downtown, there's tons of good food options where I live. There's delivery. I mean, there's a new I don't even know if do you remember the DGX that was in my building? Remember the building you came for their mastermind is where I live.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a high end convenience store that opened on the bottom floor of my building with just like desserts, snacks. I mean, it's like really dangerous. So I'm like, if I can
Oh no. Yeah.
not do any of that for nearly 2 days, I feel like I can accomplish almost anything.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
what I know you just moved to LA, right?
Yeah, yeah. And my girlfriend actually deals or helps women that have emotional eating disorders. So that's actually been another huge blessing in disguise for me. I didn't realize how much I emotionally eat. If I'm bored, I'm more of a boredom eater. And so learning just how attached to food you are emotionally um, by doing the longer fast, like you said, that 30-hour, 40-hour fast. Um, it's really cool that you realize a lot of it's in your head and it's emotionally attached. That you're not actually hungry, you're just filling a void, um, or like comforting an emotion. That's been really good for me too. So I do believe with everything that I've been doing and now actually developing a proper emotional relationship with food that I feel like I'm in my best shape ever. And by the first of the year, I think that will show itself on the outside too. So
I mean, you look pretty lean just from seeing you right here. Like, you look pretty healthy.
yeah, I'm probably realistically, I'm probably 11%. I'd like to be under 10
Okay.
because I want my abs to show when I'm not flexing.
Yeah.
So
I It makes sense why fasting is effective, because if we lived 100,000 years ago and we're just roaming the forest, we wouldn't sit down and eat a meal at 9 and a meal at 1 and a meal at 7. Like, we would just eat probably a big meal when we could, and maybe a little bit of hunting and gather, like a little bit of gathering of nuts and fruits and stuff like that as we were walking around. But we definitely didn't eat consistent meals throughout the day all day. And like, the thing I love about it is my body just feels so good because I don't have that feeling of food digesting, you know? Like,
yeah,
when you eat a
yeah.
meal,
So
your body is just, you feel it. And when you're fasting, you don't have that feeling. And I feel just like energetically, like mentally, I'm just in a much better place.
yeah, so the thing that I noticed the most is when I was eating regular, if I eat even if I waited till lunch and ate a big lunch, by 2 o'clock I started feeling that lethargic, brain fog, all that, because your body it starts digesting that food. I would want to nap, whatever, in the middle of the day when I should be working, or when I want to be working. And then what I've noticed is if I wait till 2 before I eat, I'm way more productive during my workday, because then that kicks in 4 or 5 o'clock, and I can, go do something else. It kind of forces me to get up and walk away from the computer, which is a good thing too. So yeah, fasting's been amazing for me.
Yeah, I agree. So we both recommend fasting. We are medical professionals. No, no, talk to your doctor. Of course, it just works for me. And it apparently works for Matt too. So, how is it
Yeah.
like moving to LA when I swear everybody's moving out right now? Is rent free? Is it like
Yeah.
7 months free everywhere? I mean, what's going on?
No, so for me, it's a temporary situation. I met someone 6, 7 months ago, and I had the luxury of been traveling around and checking out different areas of the country, and I had spent a year in San Francisco. I liked the West Coast, but I didn't like San Francisco. I thought it was really dirty.
It
Um,
is.
and then when I got here to LA, 2 days later was when the George Floyd thing happened, and they started the riots. I actually had to evacuate the house for 4 or 5 days because it's filled with smoke. The fires burning down Melrose were literally a couple of blocks away, and so um, I got my welcoming, I guess, traditional LA style.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not a huge fan of California at all, but I really do like the weather. The weather's awesome. I've been here since May, and I think there's been one day where it sprinkled in the morning and then it was sunny again in the afternoon. So we haven't had a single rainstorm, no clouds. Like it just, I do like the weather. I don't see myself here long term because I 100% don't agree with their political beliefs or anything like that. Um, I'm very much so believe that what we earn, we should decide what we do with it, and and who we want to help, not have someone take it and distribute it as they see fit. So
I agree completely, and I feel like the last few years I start paying more taxes, and it's just like cringy, like writing checks. I'm just like, oh my god, it's the worst, most annoying thing I do probably of the years, like writing that check. And I know it's part of the. I don't mind some taxes, but yeah, are you a California resident? Or are you still residents elsewhere?
yeah, nope. I still have my residence in Nevada, so I'm just a temporary fixture here, and I plan to keep it that way.
So you're saying you don't want to pay the 13% state income tax that everybody's fleeing from?
Right? Yeah,
We
yeah.
want you to
And
pay
there's
13%, but you can't go to the beach, you can't use the amenities, you can't go to restaurants, but we still want you to pay 13%. Yeah.
yeah, you can sit outside on the sidewalk to eat dinner, or in a parking lot, not inside the restaurant. It's just so many crazy things. It's unbelievable.
you
Uh,
you can
yeah,
get your hair done outside unless you're Nancy Pelosi, then you can get it done inside. I did see though the salons finally open though in California, right? I just saw.
yeah.
Yeah, right after
It
that.
actually happened. It happened the next day. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean that's what was so crazy to me. And again, I'm a libertarian. Like I'm pretty moderate on stuff. I'm progressive on and I talk about it regularly, like drug laws and prostitution I think should be legal. I think drugs should be legal. But like crazy stuff when arguably the most powerful political leader on one side in the country is telling you you can't go and do these things, and then she does it herself and then blames the salon owner. I'm like, this is the
yeah,
dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. That of all things, COVID, that may have been the thing that made me most annoyed because I'm like, it's so hypocritical, and I just that type of hypocrisy drives me up the wall. So it's
yeah. The sad
elitist.
part for me, being self-employed and knowing how hard it is to create a business, get traction, be successful, and then maintain that over time. I 100% believe tons and tons of this is very political. And the sad part for me is I've watched it vaporize um, an enormous amount of business. Those people didn't make bad decisions. They did a good job. They worked very hard, and literally overnight, um, this agenda has literally destroyed everything that they built, and it's not coming back. So they have to start, fortunately, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to anyone, like we work online, like I work from home. It didn't affect us in a negative way. In some instances, being online, we saw some of the businesses that we help manage their data and analytics, they've benefited from it. Um, but and there's no way I would have ever wanted to see like the salon owners and all these different people who 100% could carry on business and do things the way that they should, maybe exercise some, you know, precautionary measures, but for them to just flat out shut it down and not allow them to open until Nancy gets caught on camera um, is terrible. Like, it's unbelievable to me. So I tell people very much that I have a lot of liberal views. I'm just very conservative when it comes to my money and what I've earned and worked for. Yeah. So
I agree 1,000%. And yeah, I mean, what bars are doing downtown Orlando now, the University Club, which is where we had the event that I last saw you in March, they temperature check you when you walk in the door. Like reasonable stuff like that, I'm actually for, because it's like, hey, they can still
yeah,
run their business. If there's one guy that has a bad cold, and that I'm fine with that even being kind of standard moving forward. Like, hey, if some sort of temperature check or something, if someone's just looking sick, they probably shouldn't be out in public anyway, or that we should encourage them more to get home and get rest and better themselves. But
yeah,
there's basic precautions like temperature checks that at least somebody that's seriously sick, which all the data that comes out now shows that asymptomatic spread almost doesn't exist. It's only from people experiencing symptoms. If there was just all businesses opened and there was basic stuff like temperature trucks and like that would fix a lot of it, because I mean the data shows, and it's still, I saw some stat recently that there's 14 million on federal unemployment in the US. 7 million of them, 50%, are in California. Isn't that some crazy shit?
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
man.
yeah. So I went to Vegas for a workshop, and their policy there is you wear the mask um, till you're seated at the restaurant, then you take your mask off. And so they can all eat inside. Their businesses are up and running. They do have like certain tables are, moved farther apart from each other, but those businesses are allowed to operate and they're not having any adverse effects from that. Yeah, it's definitely a state problem here that is crazy. So
Yeah, it is. I agree, and I know tons of people are moving out of California and New York right now. I don't blame them. Florida's housing market, and I know Texas, they're both doing really well. But yeah, it's
so
gonna
is Nevada. Yeah,
yeah, Nevada too. Even though it's a blue state, but which I didn't even realize until COVID that Nevada was a blue state. I was thinking it would be a red
it
state.
just it just turned last year, so
Yeah,
it's been a red state until last year. But they've had such a mass exodus from California to there. I think that's actually
yeah,
what has swung it.
for sure. So I know you mentioned you just got in a you have a healthy relationship. What how old is she and why is it so healthy, man? How can you, that's very rare. There's not that many healthy romantic relationships in this world. How old is she and why is it so healthy? What's the secret?
She's 30. She'll be 31 in December.
Okay, we have that in
Um,
common.
yeah, she has two children. But she, again, like I said, she teaches people emotional health around eating food. And so obviously that's carried over to lots of other areas in her life, being emotionally healthy. And I really feel like the work that I've spent a lot of time with the last couple of years too is in emotional intelligence and learning how and why we react, what our triggers are, our filters that we view things through. Um, I'll say uh, that's probably what I appreciate and have the most gratitude to her for is like she's extremely emotionally intelligent. So we can have very open, honest, raw conversations like you and I would have about things that we don't like share in public or even like things that you wouldn't normally tell a girl because it's like a guy thing and she handles it very well and like we talked through it. So it's really allowed us to have a best friend relationship, which is actually what we had before we had a romantic relationship. Um, and so just being really good friends and then that developing over time. For me, I've always said that the relationship can only be as healthy as the least healthy person. Um, and so I think as her and I both work on ourselves being healthy, we complement each other. It's not like I don't need her to be happy. She doesn't need me to be happy. We're both happy by ourselves, and together we just complement each other. I don't. If you do the math, one times one equals one. So, um, or if you think that you need the other person to make you feel whole, if you're each half of the relationship, half times a half actually equals a quarter. So you become less if you're looking for
Mm.
someone to fulfill you. If you're a whole person, one times one equals one. So I think both people got to be healthy and mature in order to have a healthy relationship.
Yeah. And I agree with you on the emotional intelligence stuff. That's a lot of the conversations we've had. And I actually have some questions for you about that. But what are your thoughts? Like, how did it transition from a friendship to romantic? Because does that happen a lot in male female relations? I feel like once it's a friend zone, it's like really hard to get out of the friend zone. So how did you get out of the friend zone into romantic?
Well, I think there was chemistry there all along, but what kept it obviously like we had to remain friends because I lived on the East Coast at the time and she lived on the West Coast, so it wasn't like it facilitated moving it really fast. It was
Got it.
actually I mean, we had good chemistry. We spent 4 or 5 days together at a workshop. That's how we met. Um, she works for herself. She sells a digital product and helps women online. Obviously, that's what we do with e-commerce stores. So we had a lot in common. I actually went home and hadn't talked to her more than an email or a text for a week or two, and then she messaged me one night, "Hey, you got time to chat tonight?" And so we started talking, and that led into talking the second night and the third night, and then fourth night I fell asleep because I'm typically a go to bed early and get up early, and so her being on the West Coast, it was keeping me up super late, and we realized when I fell asleep and we didn't talk that night, like we both missed it, and so we just yeah, just it kind of developed naturally. It was really nice, and then when I did move out here, in order to maintain that same, I thought about like not wanting it to go too fast because typically if it starts fast, it can burn out fast, or there's just a lot of things that you're gonna encounter that will create issues, especially because she has two children too. I wanted to maintain that same level of like slow, steady growth, and so I actually live about 45 minutes away from her. So it's not like, hey, I'm gonna pop over and see you. It's we see each other a couple of times a week, talk to each other obviously every day, um, and so that's facilitated um, me being introduced into the kids' life in a healthy way too, that doesn't like really upset their world. Um, yeah, it's been really, really good. Like, it's probably the most healthy way I've ever done it. Um, hence why I'm probably the happiest I've ever been,
Do you feel like it's
in that
because
type
of
of
the
relationship.
Yeah, no, do you feel like it's because of all the recent work you've been doing on that stuff?
Yeah, 100%. Because there's definitely been things that triggered me that I probably would have not handled as well as I do now, or
Yeah.
I would have just been like, forget this, know. Um, but it's just, it's really not, it's not normal to expect perfection, and it would be very naive to think that someone else that's grown up in a different environment than I have, that she's going to have the same beliefs, perceptions, um, filters that she makes decisions from. It would be naive
Habits.
to think
Yeah.
like, yeah, that we're going to agree on everything. So no, it's been really good for both of us. Yeah.
So I'm putting in a scenario together. So you guys have been building this amazing relationship virtually, and then obviously because I've had something similar happen before, so I think I can relate. And then when you finally meet in person, were you just like really nervous? Like, I hope this goes well and there's like that personal connection, or did you just know for 100% that it was going to be there?
No, so the reason why is we actually met in person at a workshop. So
Okay.
we met in per. So the first day, it's kind of funny because we talk about it all the time. I was sitting a row back, and she was sitting up by the speaker, and she looked at me one time, and I just looked at her. I didn't look away. And so she said that was really, really weird. She goes, it was crazy how she goes, normally when I look at people, they look away, or they like, especially strangers. And then she goes, like, you just held that space and you didn't look away, like you were very comfortable with who you were. And I'm like, well, yeah, I've been doing a ton of emotional intelligence stuff. And yeah, I was totally fine with it. So, anyways, I never introduced myself. So at the end of the day, she walked over and she goes, I noticed you looking at me earlier. And I'm like, yeah, I was. Yeah, I think I just said, yeah, I was. Nice to meet you. And I left. And so then the next day, she actually came up to me and introduced herself more formally, and then we actually did some work together in the workshop, and then we ended up hanging out for the next 4 days. Like, we did tons of stuff together and got to know each other and learn about each other's life. And then I went home to the East Coast, and she was
Got
on the
it.
West Coast. So we had 4 or 5 days of really hanging out. We did dinner, um, worked at the workshop together, lunches, really spent quite a bit of time together during those 4 days, and built a connection that way. So,
That's awesome. Yeah, that I think workshops are the secret. If there's an opposite sex there, you're getting so open and vulnerable that there's no way a great connection won't be built. My friend Dave, who has the coaching group Comma Club that I'm a part of, I was just telling you about. He met his current wife, his second wife, because he used to coach her. So
oh, cool.
there's an amazing space for a good authentic relationship to be built, and I think you can just get past all the fluff. Both people's guards are down, like, especially I feel like especially if it's a really pretty woman or something that maybe has her guards up, but in a space like that you can just blast right through it and just get to the good stuff.
Yeah. So, okay, all right, I'll get a little more vulnerable here. So what it was the workshop, was like basically learning hypnosis and how to train our subconscious mind. And so one of the things that we were supposed to do was called a safe place induction. And just give you a little backstory on my life. My father was physically abusive, and so it was really weird. I'm a super happy person now, and I had felt like I had dealt with all of that stuff. I definitely, over the last year and a half, have learned a whole bunch more, um, because I always felt like my dad was where I had troubles in relationships, because how can you tell someone you love them, but then when you lose your temper, be physically abusive? And so I always looked at that as maybe an area of why I struggled in intimate relationships. And going through this emotional intelligence, um, what I actually realized was it was my relationship with my mother. Um, she had been checked out emotionally because she had been dealing with the same thing that we did as kids as his wife. And then to have um, her mom was also emotionally abusive to her because she didn't like my dad for obvious reasons. And was um, my mom got pregnant with me and my brother when she was still young, so she had all these things going against her in a world back, 49 years ago when it was super taboo. Um, she just emotionally checked out. I don't think that she had the capacity. She's a very loving person. I don't think any of it was ever intentional, but through this emotional intelligence, I realized that it was really the relationship with my mom is where I had a lot of hangups and why I wouldn't let people get super close to me in an intimate relationship. So Katie and I did this. It's called the Safe Place Induction to start a hypnosis, and she was supposed to have me think of a safe place, and I literally couldn't think of a place that I considered safe to do this. And so we started exploring that. And throughout that whole day, we did several different sessions. And when I went really, really deep into what I was feeling and a couple of experiences that I had as a child with my dad, and how it made me feel. And so we had this like super deep understanding of each other from the very first day that we spent time together because I was very vulnerable and obviously talked about things that like I had no control over, but you probably wouldn't share in the first 24 hours of meeting someone.
Totally. No, it
Um,
gets past
that,
that. Yeah.
yeah, so that facilitated a really good, deep connection as an honest friend
Trust.
because she
Yeah.
held space for me. Yeah, trust. Yeah. So that's really how it started. And then that's why everything else that's happened since then, we've been very open, honest, and vulnerable, and talking about like, she's obviously made mistakes and shared those with me. And so yeah, it's like we just don't have any secrets. It's really nice.
That's super healthy. That's awesome. Is there an area of vulnerability you feel like you've really improved on the last couple of years that has helped in relationships like this?
Um, yeah, just in the fact like we're always trying to show our best self, which is fine. Um, but if they only ever see your best self, then they don't really know or can't like support you in the times when you don't feel like your best self. And so I think one thing that I've learned and appreciate about her is like she doesn't make any assumptions. So she doesn't project her feelings or her meanings to what I'm trying to say. Um, and so what I mean by that is like it's just a good conversational um, technique to listen to people intentionally and maybe repeat back what they say and say, "This is what I understand you're saying," and then they have an opportunity to say, "No, that's not what I meant. What I really meant is this," or "Yes, that's exactly what I meant," because we both know over time, and obviously being entrepreneurs, we're kind of bullet point communicators and just expect people to understand what we meant. Well, they understand what we meant from their point of view. They don't understand what we meant from our life experience and the filters that we have that we explained it, and we're not really good at explaining it. And so um, I would say the vulnerability from the standpoint of saying, um, this is how I understood what you meant. Is that correct or not correct?
Yeah.
Or just not making assumptions, asking another question or two. And most people don't do that. So by doing that, you honestly become the most interesting person in the world. Most people are too busy trying to talk about themselves because that's their favorite subject. When if you just ask more questions when someone shares something with you to draw it out deeper, they actually feel heard, understood, supported, and and most people don't show up that way. So I would say vulnerability in the aspect of being willing to um, ask hard questions and not make assumptions really deepens the connection that you have. It's been really good for me, even with my friends. Like you and I have had, really deep conversations and talk about things that, most people go, oh, that's embarrassing, but like it's just real life.
Yeah. No, that's really good. There's something I want to share on that, but I wanted to ask too, what's your relationship with your mother now?
It's not great only for the simple standpoint that they're a religious. They have a religious belief that if there are other people in the family that aren't that religion, they don't talk to them because they want you to like find out or feel what you're missing out on. Um, but as far as like my relationship about how I think about my mom, how I care about her, and who I think of as a person, like I love her to death, and I think that she's always done the very best that she could with what she had. So I have zero animosity towards her at all.
Yeah, that's interesting. Religion can really dictate a lot of people's thoughts, and it's I have some family members
Their
that
belief system. Yeah,
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 it's what what came up for me. I this coaching group that I'm a part of, I've been going every quarter for 5 years now. Except I missed last quarter because of a little virus. I don't know if you heard of it, but yeah,
yeah.
the whole world shut down. Uh, it's normally business stuff comes up for me, and again, not that I'm like amazing in business, but I feel like I've that's definitely a strong suit for me is business and relationships and just knowing what a business needs to succeed. And I feel like in business I've been successful because I know my worth and I'm willing to take risks and I'm willing to like if someone's not a fit, I'm just willing to have a conversation and be like, "Hey, it's not a fit." Where on my personal side, it doesn't or historically hasn't been correlating, and that what came clear to me. It's like I value myself. I take chances. I'm willing to put my foot down. All the things that make us great in business. And in my personal life, I act from more of a scarcity and fear mindset. And I realized that I'm like, I just gotta stop being a fucking pussy, honestly, and take chances. And so this girl that I'm, interested in that I've talked to here and there for over a year, but I've always thought very highly of her. Right after the coaching session, I just called her up and said, "Hey, like, I think you're the most beautiful girl in the world, and I don't know what it looks like, but I I know we're just meant to share important life experiences together." And I truly felt it, and it felt like such a relief to get that off my chest. And then obviously it was scary because she could have been something. She could have
Right.
said, "That's not what I had in mind at all. That sounds horrible." Which
Yeah.
and yeah, it was really scary. But just I realized that I have to be better at being. I'm vulnerable, but I got to be willing to just open up a side of me that I've just been keeping very, very guarded. Like it's crazy how I can go into a business meeting and there could be all this money on the line and no big deal, nonchalant money, okay, cool, whatever. And then like God forbid sharing how I feel and telling a girl she's really beautiful, my heart's pounding, and it's just I'm
Yeah.
like, oh
Yeah.
my God, I could get. Ultimately, it's a fear of rejection too, right? I mean, I think
Yeah.
a feeling of not being loved, not being prioritized, which is a lot of what my childhood was, and I that's a deep down desire I really have is to be loved and prioritized. And when I am share something like that, there's a good possibility they could be like, I do not feel the same way at all, and that's very, very
Yeah.
scary. And that's what I
Yeah.
realized. So I'm just, again, it's still hard and I'm not perfect at it, but I'm committed to, and the goal should be for me, for them, it's a win-win either way. Even they're like, oh my God, that's the sweetest thing I've ever heard. I feel the same way. Or they're like, you're a giant fucking weirdo. I don't want to talk to you anymore. And at least we're not on the fence and I don't have to waste any more
Right.
time and energy. And it's crazy
Yeah.
it took me this long to figure that out, but it felt so great. And I was kind of looking for either response. I was like, even if she says this, the bad response, it's going to hurt my feelings, but at least I know I can move on. I was actually excited for the rejection potentially for the first time ever, maybe, in a
Yeah,
personal thing.
that's awesome. Yeah, one thing that I realized from the experience that I went through with Katie was I had held a lot of shame and also blame, because one of the experiences was when I was less than 5 years old. I actually witnessed my dad being physically abusive with my mom, and I couldn't do anything about it. So somehow I had attached this blame to myself, and I was ashamed to talk about it to people as one of my life experiences. And that was one of the filters that I was actually using, that I processed relationships through. What was crazy was that night after we did that experience, or after that day of the workshop, that night I actually woke up in hives, which I've never had in my entire life. My body was like cherry red. I was totally broke out. Um, I actually moved from the bed over to a couch in the hotel room and just repositioned myself to sleep. Fell back asleep, had a really weird dream, woke back up again, fell back asleep, and about an hour and a half later, the hives were gone. So I literally, somehow, my body was emotionally purging this experience. And then for the next day and a half, it was literally, I just felt off, but my body was rewriting this memory and how I attached this shame and blame to it. Uh, and then so that was the filter that I saw lots of experiences in my life. And just that one thing has changed a lot. I could talk about it now. That experience, I no longer blame myself for it. Like, just a ton of really, really good things came from an experience that was really hard, that if I wouldn't have went there or wouldn't have felt comfortable doing that, it just went, I'd be in a totally different place now, almost a year later. And it was funny, the second day, when she did come over, she goes, "Hey, would you like to work together?" And I'm like, "Sure." And so we walked out, and the very first thing I said to her was, and I would have never done this in a normal circumstance, but because of the emotional intelligence stuff, I said, "Yeah, I have no problem working with you, but I'm just going to tell you up front, I think you're really pretty, and so I'm nervous. But besides that, like, I'm happy to work with you, and this will be a lot of fun." And she thought that was amazing, that I would actually just start the conversation that way, being open and honest. And so, yeah, just we've facilitated that through the whole thing. But I would have never done that had I not um, been through some emotional intelligence training, because I had the same fears and inadequacies that we all have, from different experiences that we had growing up. And once you realize, when you start sharing those, it's amazing how much more connected with people you are, because they have those same things. If they think your life is awesome 100% of the time, then they don't relate to you.
Yeah. No, that mad respect for saying that. I mean, I feel like, and it's backwards in society, but and you maybe agree. And again, this is recent clarity for me, so I don't want to pretend that this has been my mindset for many years. But it's guys need to play it cool, don't act too interested, all this dumb shit, and I'm just in my head. I'm telling myself. I mean, this is why I've had so many bad relationships, because I'm playing it cool. I'm maybe not texting when I want to text or calling when I want to text. Now lately, if I want to text, I text. If I call, I call. And if they get annoyed by that, that's who I'm gonna be forever. So
Yeah,
that's
right.
what I'm gonna be my whole life. I'm not gonna change. So, like, being myself, even if they're like, Jeremy, you're being weird, you're being too much, which I've been told by that by multiple girls, and that used to really hurt my feelings, and it still kind of hurts, but it's more I would rather hear that than waste any more energy. Um,
Yeah, I would say, and I definitely don't know like your situation. Um, I will say that probably I dealt with some codependency issues,
yeah,
and so that can destroy a relationship too. And that's simply from, I was thinking like, oh, if I just take care of everything for them, that will show them how much I care. When, in all honesty, um, what I should have been having is conversations about like, oh, okay, is this something that you actually want me to help with, or is this something that you actually just want me to listen to and you'll work through it on your own?
Yeah.
Because that's healthy. That's a healthy conversation rather than you just because you can you have flexibility in schedule, you have extra money, you don't have a lot of things, you can show up for people in ways that other people can't, and that's normal to you, that freaks other people out. So um, I would say definitely always be you, but the conversation of, hey, is this something that you need or want? Because from your standpoint, that's actually what you're trying to do. Just the way that it comes across, I've learned that the healthier I get, the more that I work on the 6 inches between my ears, the better the life I have outside in the relationship. So um, for sure, the conversation of, hey, this is, I'm a really good communicator. I love talking more often than not. Is that something that you like or not like or whatever? Or, you know, yeah,
Yeah, that's really good feedback actually, and I appreciate that. And that's what's been great about these podcasts, by the way, is every one of them I feel like I'm getting better myself and I'm learning, which is great because even if no one ever listens to them, we get a private consulting call here. But
yeah.
that I that's really good insight and really good feedback, and I'm just kind of processing in my head right now where that's come up. So can you give me an example there? Maybe something that's relevant with your current relationship where you asked if it's something you wanted to help with or just listen? Do you have anything that comes top of mind?
Um, yeah, probably out of respect for her.
Even if
I
it's
don't
high
have like
level.
an,
Yeah, even if it's high level.
yeah, I don't have an exact instance. What I can say is where codependency shows up for me is I'm a fixer. So I would fix things that they would only stay fixed if I kept fixing it. So that's not a healthy way to do it. Like a healthier way to to make sure that it's not codependent is to have a conversation around, hey, I noticed this is an issue. Um, let's talk about it. And a lot of times, again, being vulnerable and being willing to have a hard conversation, I also think like you don't have the hard conversations that don't mean enough to you to like bring them up. So if there's an issue or you notice an unhealthy trait, and they don't see it as unhealthy, talking about it, a lot of times they go, oh yeah, I've just always done it that way. And I didn't, now that I see it from your perspective, it is something that I would like to change or adjust. And that really is facilitating a healthy conversation between both people where if you fix it, they go, oh, that's awesome, you fixed it. But now you end up having to fix it all the time. They haven't actually done the work in order for it to be changed. And I think awareness is really the first step of anything. Like once you're aware of an issue, then you can address it, whether it's personally or with, in the relationship. And so um, just cultivating a really high awareness or pay attention to each other um, from the standpoint of not being a fixer, but like accepting them with who they are. Um, when you're a fixer, basically you're saying, oh, I'm better than you, or oh, I know better than you. But do I really, or is it just my point of view? And so having that conversation gives you a feedback loop where one, you're not like assuming that you're right and they're wrong. You're not fixing or that you know better and they don't. You have a good, healthy conversation and then you come to an agreement. And sometimes our agreement is that we just agree to disagree. Like that's her belief and this is my belief and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. What are some things? I mean, it doesn't. It could be this relationship or a previous. What are some things that you used to always try to fix? I'm just trying to
Um,
like.
yeah, well, even just paying for everything. like
Yeah.
paying for everything like that. You know, there's masculine and feminine energy in all of us, and so uh, they like being taken care of, but they also don't want to feel like they're a charity case either. So just being giving them the ability to have choices, about that matters. I always thought like, oh man, that's just the guy's role. Like I'm going to be a good provider, and they would be like, listen, because I definitely like independent women, and most of them are self-employed, and that actually takes some pride away from them of what they've built and what they want to contribute and things like that. So for sure, like having conversations about that is, one example of something that I've worked on.
Yeah, this is really good. A lot of thoughts are running through my head now of things. I mean that's something I've been trying to be better at lately is not just treating everything because obviously I have the financial means too, but even if it's I treat dinner, you grab drinks or whatever, just some skin in the game, I feel is ultimately healthier. Like and from a qualification standpoint too, like that person obviously if they're not willing to pay for drinks or do something, they have no interest in hanging out with the real you anyway. So it's a great way to have a filter. But that's really good feedback as well. Just have you read the book Way of the Superior Man?
No, actually, my friend from Tampa just sent it to me a
Oh,
while back, and I haven't read it yet. But yeah, no, I haven't.
highly recommended. I may actually reread it now as we're talking about this because it's a lot about masculine and feminine energy and how it's important to. Because there was a girl that I dated in the past that she would never want me to provide and it would really strain our relationship. Like she wanted to do everything
Yeah,
herself, like literally everything, when it came to anything monetary because of whatever value of money she had or whatever viewpoint just made her wanted to, whether it was buying groceries, paying for food, she just had a really hard time and it really strained our relationship because I wanted to be in the masculine and provide, right?
yeah. So Katie was very honest up front. She said, "Yeah, if you pay for everything, then I feel like I owe you something, and I don't want to owe anybody anything." And so I had to respect that, and so that really was, an area where we took time to learn each other, and then it got to the point where now um, she feels comfortable asking for me to help with stuff because she knows that there's not some hidden agenda attached to it. So again, it'd be very naive for me to think like, oh, of course, every girl wants me to pay for everything, but I don't know like what her life experiences are, and I don't know like if some guy paid for stuff, but then he used that as leverage or emotional abuse or different things. And so by me just thinking I'm doing the good thing and the manly thing, it could be traumatic for her. And so again, like I said, just listening and asking more clarifying questions and being vulnerable and talking about like areas of my life that I'm working on that I'm not perfect at early on allowed her to do the same thing, which facilitated just a much healthier relationship where, um, if we are struggling with something, we talk to each other. We're like each other's best friends. So
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Would you recommend then if there is a case where there seems to be an over providing that to have a conversation about, hey, you don't owe me anything, just to be clear?
100%. Because that was something I told her. She goes, "Oh, you don't have to do that." And I said, "I know I don't have to do that. I don't have to do anything. This is my choice. I don't mind." And like, no, there's no perception on my part that this endears you to me for anything other than like I don't mind buying you a coffee in the morning while we're walking to the workshop, and I don't mind picking up lunch. For me as a man, I do care about being a provider, and that could be for a friend, could be for a relationship, it could be for a business associate. Like I buy lunches all the time. It really is something that I enjoy doing. And so as long as you don't mind, like I don't mind doing it either. And so from that standpoint, we were good, you know.
Yeah, no, that's really good. So how I want to take a little bit of a shift. How do you think
Yep.
this work, this emotional intelligence work, which by the way, I'm curious what your definition of emotional intelligence is, but how has it benefited you with your business partnership with Tanner and just with your success in business?
It's been amazing. So um, I've always been, I shouldn't say I've always been, I think I've always been a kind person, and uh, fairly understanding. I typically don't overreact. I'm kind of the guy that like a whole bunch of chaos happens, and then I'll think about it and then come back to the table the next day. I'm not like I gotta fix this now and keep going and going and drilling down while emotions are spiking. And Tanner, my business partner, is a lot more emotionally um, fired up and just like a really, really hard driver. And so um, we've always kind of had that yin and yang where he would frustrate me. And I'm sure like well, I guarantee I know I frustrated him too because um, he wants to handle stuff now and wait until the next day is just a waste of time. But over time, like he's done really really good. In fact, he's actually now went to the same emotional intelligence training I did in Las Vegas, and we've sent I think close to 15 of our team members. We're just over 60 people now, um, and it's made a massive shift in people being able to express what they actually think and believe without the fear of judgment or or yeah, just they can be heard and seen, um, and they're allowed to be different. Like there's not a right or wrong way to view it. There's how I see it and how you see it, and like how do we figure out to get to the same end goal with the resources that we have. So we always are a lot more powerful if we work together than um, we have one way to do stuff, and if it's not the best way, it's not going to be efficient for all 60 people.
Yeah. How did you convince them to go to that initial workshop?
It was basically a bribe. Hey, I'm the guinea pig. If I go and make it all the way through it, you got to go too. And so he let me be the guinea pig, and I said, yeah, you definitely need to go. And so he literally went to because he gave me his word. And the first couple of days, he was totally checked out. He's like, all these people have real problems. I don't have real problems. I came here to learn about business. And by the time that he was done, um, him and I have never like I have a relationship with him like I do with Katie, minus the intimacy. We can talk about anything. We joke around about being we're each other's work wife. When you're in a partnership with a business, it's basically like you're married to that person, and so we viewed it that way. We're going to have good times and bad times, and as long as we can communicate well and respectfully and treat each other the way that we'd like to be treated, we'll have a long, healthy relationship. And it really has. I have as good a relationship with him as I do anyone else on the planet, and I'm grateful for that.
That's awesome. I actually just had a we talked about this before, but you and Tanner's relationship dynamic I do think has many similarities to Max and I's relationship dynamic, and we've talked about different stuff. And I just had an adult conversation with Max actually about like our business has been doing well. We're busier than we've ever been, and this is just me being vulnerable, recording it and making it accessible to the world. But I just felt like our friendship was kind of in limbo. It was on the fence. So I reached out to him and I was just like, hey, it's important that I get clear. Like Brene Brown talks about clear is kind, unclear is unclear. And I felt we were very unclear. And he's about to have a baby. And I was like, I just wanted to get clear on what our relationship was. If it's, or what our relationship is. If it's just business and we just focus on business, because I know you got a lot going on in your life, that's 100% okay. And if there wants to be if you want there to be a friendship component, I 100% support that too. I just want to get clear, and I think it'll be healthier for both of us. And it was a really productive combo. We chatted for about an hour, and he's just basically like, I'm sorry I haven't been he's just busy and he has a lot of stuff going on. So I wasn't mad or anything. It was just more I want to get clear. And he's like, you're right. I need to, do these things. And just in a few weeks since we've had that call, me, Christopher, my little brother, is a partner in Unicorn now as well. Uh, we've hung out twice. We all saw a movie together. We rented out a whole theater, which you can do now apparently. So it was like six of us in a whole theater. It was really obnoxious. And then we went over to his house Sunday night, and our personal relationship has probably never been better. We had a little group text, and we're just joking about stuff earlier, and it's just from that conversation. If I never would have had that conversation, I don't know where our relationship would be. And I put it on my calendar the next morning. I was nervous going to bed the night before. I was like, this is gonna be, I'm kind of nervous about this conversation because
Yeah.
I've never had that exactly with a business partner. I've had it with women. I've had friends, but the business partner thing, because again, not saying it would, because I was confident he wouldn't freak out or anything, but this is my income, this is my future. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that could have negatively happened too by having that conversation. So it's risky, right? But I'm really glad I had it. And yeah, our relationship, we maybe hung. I don't. We maybe saw each other one time the whole year, and obviously COVID had a lot to do with it. But now we're gonna be like, we set up something to do Xbox weekly with like us and like a few other people in the industry. We're gonna play Xbox. So all stemmed from that conversation, and we talked about solutions, and it was really beneficial.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important. Like communication is really um, the foundation that you have in any relationship. And so the better the communication is, it doesn't have to always be perfect. It just has to be moving forward and clear. Like you said, clear has a lot to do with everything.
And yeah, it's crazy, and it's ultimately our biology, right? This fight or flight, that we have so much fear about having conversations. It's insane the amount of anxiety conversations will bring us, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But I was just gonna say what I realized was we spend so much energy and thought and anxiety in trying to be what we think other people want us to be
yeah,
or what we think other people think we should be, um, that actually creates this unconscious void and pushes people away because they can't relate to us always being this like perfect example of what they think that we should be. And so at the moment that we share our imperfections and the things that like most people don't want to talk about, our connections and our relationships get ultimately better. Like fundamentally, every aspect of them grows and flourishes. And so, what we think that everyone needs is actually what's pushing us away
yeah,
when we talk about what's real and like what we're actually thinking and dealing with. Um, that's when that is when the connections are built and we have like a real relationship because it's not built on any type of falsehood and we can relate to each other. And that's really been my biggest learning from emotional intelligence is like when I want people to think that I'm perfect or that everything is amazing, that's when nobody connects with me. When they realize like I get up the same way they do every morning and have to like tell myself to go through my morning routine, and some days I don't feel like it, and some days I do get angry or some days I do get frustrated and share those, or some days I do feel like I'm not good enough, or that I have inadequacies, and when I share those, that's when my life has become the most fulfilled, the most satisfying, the most connected with other people that it's ever been.
I I tend to agree with that, and it's I'm very fortunate. Like mentioned earlier, I recently turned 30, and people are like, "Oh, 30-year old." I'm like, I'm fucking stoked for my 30s because I feel like my teens and 20s I was so lost and uncertain and lacked confidence and lacked the ability to love, and was, grew up very low income, and it's just like now I feel better than I've ever felt. Like I feel like my 30s and just every decade, every year moving forward is going to be awesome. I'm really excited
Yeah,
about it. So,
yeah.
what would you recommend to anybody that we obviously align on? And you're a few years older than me, so you may have more experience and wisdom in this department. This is newer for me. I've really been on this journey maybe the last 4 or 5 years. But like, what would you recommend for anybody that really wants to just start getting in touch with this part of their life and being more vulnerable and building stronger relationships and things like that?
I definitely think you actually mentioned Brene Brown. Some of her books are absolutely incredible. Like it's uh, yeah, I would definitely say to read her stuff or watch some of the podcasts that she's done, like with Tim Ferriss, Lewis Howes. Her TED Talk
Her TED Talk's
was
good.
really, really good. I think it's been seen by 40 or 50 million
Her
people. It's
Netflix
like one of the most
special.
watched ones ever.
Did you see her Netflix
Yeah,
special? That was great, wasn't it?
I haven't.
Oh,
No, I have not seen that.
The Call to Courage. It's about a year and a half old. You have to watch that because mostly everything we listen Brene Brown is, I mean, there's the TED Talk, but everything is audio, podcast, or books. I mean, it's about an hour and 10 minute special. Maybe something I would
Oh
highly
yeah, I'll
recommend
watch it
it
right
for
away.
you and your girlfriend to watch it. I think I'm laughing. I was, little tears are coming out. I mean, it was a really great special.
Yeah, so I would recommend that. I would definitely say to look into like these emotional intelligence workshops, and uh, I, I don't really know how to describe the difference between like the one that I went to that's made a massive difference for me and my partner, our company, the way that I show up in the world. Um, yeah, I'm sure I can. I'll think of something and write it to you, and maybe you can put it in the show notes.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I would definitely say anything that makes you um, look at yourself personally and understand how your subconscious works. That's really been the most powerful. And the one thing that I've realized that there's not a single person on the planet that they don't deal with some sort of shame and blame and feeling of not good enough. And so I would make sure that the workshop really goes in and deals with the root causes of that. Because once you address that, everything else in your life changes.
Yeah, that's awesome. And again, I just for anybody listening, especially if you're in the marketing or business world, I feel like for so many years business was first and money was first, and it there was a lot missing in my life because of it, and I felt lost, and just this path of just getting and loving self-love, right? That's ultimately what a lot of it is too. It's just loving yourself, being okay alone, which is very difficult. I definitely, you mentioned codependency. I historically have had some major codependency challenges over the years. So just being okay alone and just all those things, it just I had a coach I was working with. She told me to take myself on a date, and I was like, that's stupid. Why would I take myself on a date?
Yeah,
And she had to tell me for months. I was working with her every week, and I finally did it, and it finally made sense. She's like, don't be on your
yeah,
phone. Just take yourself, go to a nice restaurant, and just like sit there with your thoughts, and just take yourself out because you're proud of yourself and you love yourself. And that's
yeah.
so rare and seems so simple, but it was so impactful to have that. And now that I'm talking out loud, I don't do it enough. So maybe that's another area for growth for me here. I need to take down in notes, but I don't know what your thoughts on that are either.
I would say hurt people hurt people. So healthy people don't hurt people. So typically, the healthier you get personally, the less damage and pain that you inflict on others. So definitely working on yourself helps you show up to everyone else in a more loving, healthy manner. And another thing that's been a huge game changer for me is journaling. And really, what journaling is you're writing down that little voice in your head. And I've told a lot of people, and we actually teach this inside of our company and have people journal. Um, if I talk to you like you talk to yourself, we wouldn't be friends.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to hang out with me. And so, how do you think that the way that you talk to yourself every day affects your internal happiness and how you go through life and how you show up? And so, for me, journaling, getting those thoughts out of my head and actually seeing them on paper made me realize how ridiculous a lot of my self talk was. And when you clean up your self talk, you improve your relationship with yourself because you're no longer your biggest critic. You become your biggest fan, and that's not in an egocentric way, but in a healthy way.
Yeah.
That you actually care enough about yourself to not berate yourself, to realize that you can give yourself a pep talk that, yeah, maybe you didn't act perfectly, but you did the best you could with what you knew. And so rather than looking at yourself through this lens of everyone else's perfect story, you get that white noise out of your head and you actually have a lot clearer thinking, a lot more intentional thinking, and you just become a better person to the people around you.
Yeah. That's amazing. What, just out of curiosity, what is the specific journaling activity you give to your team?
Just that you write one page a day. So it doesn't matter if it takes you 5 minutes or 15 minutes. We just want you to write one page a day. And when you do that, you're just getting your thoughts out of your head and clear. And so we just I got that screen on. So it's just like a small notepad um, that it's not a lot, 10-15 minutes. You do it every day in the morning to start your day. It's really cool how it basically sets your intention. The first month that I did it, when I go back and look at what I first read, I'm like, wow, that's crazy. All the little things that used to take up time and space in my head. Um, and we wonder why we're not as productive as we could be, because the stuff I thought about was really immaterial to, you know, a good, healthy conscience. And now what I talk about is it's about my healthy habits. It's about how I want to show up. It's about why I want to show up a certain way or who I want to be. And when you do that on a regular basis, it's funny how much it raises your awareness into your daily actions. And then you start making adjustments here and there. Am I perfect? Not even close. But am I like aware of what I can be changing and getting better at? I'm as aware as I've ever been, and that's the first step to change.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, this is good shit. I've been doing something, and I may need to just write my free thoughts better. It's something I haven't done too much of, but I do something called a daily optimization routine. I was doing it daily. Maybe now I do it maybe 3 or 4 times a week. It's my core values, things I'm grateful for, things I accomplished, positive affirmations, and goals. And I write that down, maybe again 3 4 days a week. And I think I need to start writing down free thoughts a little bit more, but that's been crucial for me because just the affirmation part in particular is just the opposite of the lie I'm telling myself, right? And then the goal, oftentimes, like I'll have a financial goal or a health goal, but then the goal can then correlate with the affirmation. So if it has something to do with my self worth or value or being myself, my goal can be, hey, I'm committed to being my 100% self, no exceptions every day, and then my affirmation maybe when I'm myself, like I like, something along the lines of my my perfect self is myself or something like that. And it's been really beneficial for me to start just writing those things down. And I I have some friends that are older guys in older school, and they always talk about the power of writing stuff down, and it's true. I mean, it's difference between typing it and
I
writing it.
Yeah, I definitely it's pen to paper. That's what we've asked everyone to do. And the way that we did it, we just asked them to do it for 30 days, and then after that point, they can continue to do it if they want to, and if they don't want to. Which I would say probably more than 70% still do it every day, which has been really good because we have people who are very healthy and learning emotional intelligence inside the company. The other thing that you said that just triggered another thought with me is that a few years back, I actually changed what I do around goal setting. So I've always been the person that write down goals and do all that. And now I actually feel like, and this is just my belief, but I feel like goals basically are put you in a state of lack. So, because we're taught from a young age, set this goal, and then when you're getting close, reset the goal because when you hit it, you don't want to get stagnant. So, essentially, what you're doing in your head when you write that goal every day is you're basically stating that you don't have what you want, but you'll be good when you get to this certain point. And so, what I found is, and then you're gonna the moment you hit it, you're supposed to set a new one and not stay there. So essentially, for 99% of the time, you're not where you want to be. And then as soon as you hit it, you celebrate for a day and then go back to the 99% of the time you're not where you want to be. And so the way that I changed that for me was I call it a target. And then I reverse engineer that. What do I have to do in my daily life for that target to become just a foregone conclusion? If it is like I want to make X amount of dollars a month, what does my daily habit have to be in order for me to make that? So now I no longer have um, this monetary goal that I have to get to be happy. I have a daily routine that if I do my daily routine, I'm happy on the journey every single day. And that monetary goal that I set up is a foregone conclusion. And so for me, I just reverse engineered my goals into what I have to be a daily, how I have to show up daily. And when I do that, I've become much happier and much more fulfilled on the journey. And every goal that I've ever set has come a lot faster and a lot quicker by doing it that
Can
way
you give me an
because it's really is
example
our
of a habit, like a habit for income that maybe you would set?
yeah, that I have to read 15 minutes of something that pertains to our business, and then I have to share it publicly. So by me
Mm,
doing that, it's facilitated a tons of new conversations. It's kept me learning because it's very easy to get complacent and drink the Kool-Aid when the business is doing well. That you think like, oh, I'm the guy,
you
and
are.
so. Um, Going through and learning every single day and that being part of my daily habit has facilitated um, basically remaining humble and understanding that like there's a lot of different ways to look at things and there's a lot of different ways to there's other people that are smart that contributing to the same area that I'm supposedly an expert in, um, that have good input. And so by me doing that, it facilitates. By me doing that, now other people in the company have started doing that. So we have this think tank that's constantly going on by what everybody's reading instead of just me.
Yeah. That's awesome. And the wealth one for me in particular, there's so many people that make it extremely complicated. And for me, the habit that I have for wealth is just hanging around with wealthy people that I aspire to be. Everything comes it There's so many hacks and tricks and just bullshit and routines. I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning and it's like all that stuff maybe helps a little, but in my opinion, 90% of it is who you're eating dinner with, who you're having conversations with, because not only do tons of opportunities come from extremely wealthy people, what I've noticed is it gives me the confidence. like ultra, like I'm new money. You know, I have money. I kind of do whatever I want, but I'm not super wealthy. We're not like I'm not worth hundreds of millions of dollars like guys in my network, and how they talk and how they act with that type of net worth, it just gives me the confidence that I can be there, and I pick up the habits they have, and I'm picking up more of these wealthy habits, then just like the money seems to flow in a little bit easier that way. So for the wealth one in
Yeah.
particular, it's like the shortcut to that is build relationships with authentic relationships, right? With very successful people, and then the money will come, uh, sure thing at some point.
So probably my favorite book that I've read in the last few years is called The Slight Edge. And what you'll realize is, if you hang out with a network of a bunch of people who have that are comfortable and have a bunch of money, there's a lot of consistencies in that
Yeah,
network. If you hang out with a bunch of people that are broke or that are lazy, there's a lot of consistencies in their life. And so it's typically not the home runs that has created their wealth. It's the small daily actions that they do consistently over a long period of time that has built their stability and who they are and how they show up.
100%. And what's the name of that book? I'm gonna have my Audible open right now. I want to make
Uh,
sure I
it's not on there. It's actually a paper. It's actually a hard cover that you got to read. So it's called The
oh,
Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. Yeah, I actually bought 25 copies and gave them away. It was so good.
here's the summary
It's
of the slide edge. Yeah, but it's not the same.
no, no, it's a really good book, and everyone that will hear this that's read it will probably say the same thing in the notes. It's phenomenal.
There's a summary for like $2. I'm gonna just get that just because I'm not a good person at physical books.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
I'm gonna definitely, I'm adding to my cart right now too that new Candace Owens book. Do you know about her?
Oh, yeah,
Her new
yeah.
book just came
Blackout.
out,
Yeah,
Blackout. So I'm actually
yeah,
really, I may start that one tonight. Blackout. Candace Owens has been on a roll. Talk about true
yeah.
bravery, Matt. Being a black conservative in 2020. I mean, is there anything braver than
Yeah.
that? Like so many people just shit on her for having an alternative view, and it's been crazy to see.
Yeah, I think it's actually good to learn from different people that have different viewpoints, even if they don't have the same as yours. And so I've for sure I've had people unfriend me, but like to me, I'm like totally open and willing to listen to people and give them the space to like explain what they think. So I give kudos to her for like being brave enough to say, hey, this is who I am and who I want to show up as. And if you like me, cool. And if you don't, that's okay too.
I 1,000% agree, and any extreme view of any type is not productive. I mean, extreme right, extreme left. If you
Yeah,
just can't like if you just can't look at something and see positive and negatives out of both situations, just anybody
yeah,
that tells, like, I am a center right, center right. Anybody that's just Trump is a god, everything he does is perfect. I'm just in my head. That's kind of weird. And
yeah,
then the opposite,
yeah,
uh, liberals and progressive that just, I ask, is there anything positive you can say about Trump? Nothing. He is the worst president of all time. I'm like, there's nothing positive. I mean, my God, it's just we have to have a sense of reality to move anything
yeah,
forward. Like there's a
yeah,
bunch of things that we can say are bad. There's a bunch of things we can say are good, but we have to have that ability to just look at a fucking scenario and not just like be so blinded by emotion. I mean, modern politics is really religion. I mean, that's what modern politics has
yeah,
substituted religion, unfortunately. And I'm not a religious guy myself, but I do understand where a lot of conservatives come from, and I've shifted conservative a little bit on this, the importance of religion for society, because you can agree with everything Christianity and Catholicism has to stand for. You don't have to agree with any of it, but there's at least core values. There's the Ten Commandments. There's some guiding star. When you don't have a guiding star, which is what I feel is going on in the world today, there's a bunch of people with no purpose, no meaning, no guiding star. It's violence. It's just all the bad stuff that's going on, right? And
Yeah, well, it's one of the human needs to feel significant. And if they don't get significance from a group or from a belief system, then they get it by, if I hold a gun to your head, like I become instantly significant to
yeah,
you.
that's true. That's good.
You're going to listen to me. You're going to do whatever I say. Um, now I'm significant. And so they're filling a human need. They're just doing it in an unhealthy manner rather than a healthy manner.
1,000% agreed. I want to finish the convo on a little bit of what you're up to in business. You talked about it earlier. Our business is doing really well too. We're very fortunate to be in the e-com space. Can you share a little bit about what's been going on in your guys' business world?
Yeah, obviously, before COVID, about 10% of sales were done online. We think that we could think that that was a lot bigger than that, but it wasn't. And because of, this turn of events, and because it lasted so long, it forced people to create new habits and behaviors, which have benefited, um, our business partners and our business. The more people that are online, the more opportunities that we have to help them optimize their website, to do a better job. We don't do anything to do with media. That's what you guys do. And we've seen a bunch of media companies go through, some change and restructure to where now they're dealing with only bigger clients, and then some that are more boutique style. So yeah, that's what we do, is we basically optimize the journey for a customer online from when they land on the website to when they check out. And we do that with 20 some plus partner stores. And then we teach people what we do in a paid Facebook group. And so that's really, that's really the soup to nuts of what we do. And I know we're really good at it. And, it's shown every day by the results we get for the people that we work with.
Yeah, you guys are really smart. I know at our mastermind, your talk where you just kind of dissected a site's just everything about it, just homepage, checkout, everything was one of the most popular segments, and I enjoyed it a lot too because I felt that there's so much opportunity to earn more money with these stores, and especially guys like us who are in the media world, it's hard enough to run successful media campaigns. It's not our genius to focus on the CRO side and the store optimization. Who's your who's your ideal client?
For us, it's really someone that has a good working product, that knows how to run media. Um, we see typically like the people from like 100 to four or $500,000 a month. They have a supply chain, they have ads, they have a good product with repeat customer rate. We can go in there and fix their website. They get the real hockey stick growth, like where they go from that 400,000 to $1 million, $2 million a month in the first 6 months, because they have everything that's necessary. Just if you think about it, the average e-commerce site converts around 2%. So most people's thinking is, oh, so for every 100 visitors I get to the store, I get 2 sales. I got to find another 100 visitors as cheap as I can. And what we've done has really been very counterintuitive, and said, traffic's not your problem. You have 98 other people that came to your store that didn't buy. How come? Let's fix that, so that you get 4 or 5 buyers out of every 100. And when you do that, then you can buy media profitably from anywhere, and you can buy it cheaper than what your competitors can, because they're still paying the same dollars for 2 sales where you're getting 5.
Yeah,
And it allows you to gain market share really fast.
for sure. And I know you guys do good work. We've done a little bit of work together. I'm sure there'll be future opportunities for us. Is buildgrowscale.com the best way to reach you if anybody wants to connect? Or Matt at
Yeah, yeah,
buildgrowscale.com?
yeah. That'd be my email. But yeah, you can go to the website too, see what we do. And yeah, we're actually even starting to fix that. It's so funny. It's a typical plumber that has the leaky pipes.
I might
Um,
check it out right
we're
now.
finally getting around to really making it conducive to what we do and share. So
You're just so good at what you do, all the word of mouth. That's the irony, I feel like, in our world is the best clients actually come word of mouth. Isn't that weird?
yeah,
In the internet
yeah,
marketing
it
world,
really
you
is. That's
yeah.
yeah. We don't advertise at all for to be partners with people. That is a 100% referral business for us. Um, and so yeah, it's been really cool.
Well, cool, man. And yeah, we have some plans to launch some new stores Q1 of next year, maybe in the similar vertical because we're really starting to figure out this conservative buyer base. So depending on who wins the election too, we're looking at maybe some survival or whatever it is. So we'll
Yeah,
keep you posted on that. Is there anything else
yeah.
that?
Well,
Go ahead.
I'll be at your mastermind this fall, so
Yep.
I'm planning on coming. So
We'll
yeah,
we'll see you
we'll
in
see each other
December.
before then.
Yep. And
Yeah,
I'm excited to just get back in person. I mean, the university club is a little private club, so they're going to let us do basically whatever we want. So as it gets, and again, it'll be a month after the election as well. So I do feel I am one of those people that believes it'll really, really die down the hysteria
yeah,
after November. So
yeah. I believe so too. Yeah.
is there anything else that you wanted to share before we bounce? We had a good chat.
I'd just say, thanks for having me on. I'm always grateful to share time and conversation with you. It never disappoints. I like yeah, I like that we're not very superficial. We just get to it. So
Yeah, likewise, man. Thanks so much for being on.
yeah. All right. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Openly Outspoken with Jeremy Adams. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player so you get updated when new episodes are live. If you enjoyed this episode, the best way to support is to leave a 5-star review and share the podcast with people in your life that you feel would benefit from these types of discussions. Visit openlyoutspoken.com for additional details on the show. Find out how to connect with Jeremy on social media and learn more information about Jeremy's personal and business life. We'll see you next time.